As many of you have received your college decisions, you've found that you have been placed on the wait list for one or more of the colleges that you apply to. So, what does that mean, and how is this happening to you anyway? Well, it's really more about the colleges than it is about you. Colleges are playing a very careful game, if you will, of trying to figure out exactly how many students they need to accept in many different categories and able to in order to have the exact class of enrollment that they're looking for come August or September. So they don't want to accept too many students. They cannot over enroll because there's simply nowhere for you to live, eat, or go to school. So they don't want to have too many students, but they also financially can't afford to have not enough. So they're playing a very careful little dance of trying to figure out exactly how many to take. Students who have been placed on the wait list are qualified. They know you can be successful at the university. There's just simply not enough room. So, what they'll do is they will place you on the wait list and come back to you if they need you in order to make their class. How big is the class? How big is the list, rather? That is going to vary tremendously from one school to the next. I've put out some information to you in my waitlist doc that show you the history of the schools that our students have been waitlisted to. And over the rest of the month here, I will continue to update that as our students get waitlisted to some new schools that may not be documented there. But for the most part, everything's there. Know that there do tend to be trends at schools with what they tend to do off the wait list. Schools that take very few off the wait list, like the most selective schools, that's really not going to change from year to year. But from other schools, they may vary from year to year, depending on sometimes how they did last year. If they over enrolled last year, they'll be more conservative this year and plan to pull from their wait list in order to augment that class and wind up where they want to be. In general, though, you will find that typically odds of getting off a wait list are not great. And the more selective the school, the lower the odds of getting off the wait list. In many cases, the odds of getting off the wait list are lower than they were getting in regular decision. Here's an example of two schools and the kind of information you'll see in the document that I've put together. So we've got the number of students who've received that offer of being on the wait list. But then many students will decide, you know what, I'm not going to take you up on that offer. Thanks, but no thanks. I've decided to move on with other schools and I don't want to stay on the wait list because even if I get in, I'm not coming. So that middle column represents the number of students who have accepted the spot on the wait list. The one on the right shows how many students were admitted off the wait list in that year. So I've tried to give you a little bit of an idea of what that looks like for each school. And for each school, I've also indicated what historically the school will allow you to do while you're on the wait list, whether they accept additional documents or what they otherwise want you to do. So make sure you check that information carefully. Many of you, well over 100 of you, have at least one wait list from Rutgers. So I've just kind of screenshot that information here so you can get an idea what happens. It's important to know that for Rutgers, those wait list decisions are per school within the university. And so what you can do is if perhaps you've been admitted to the School of Environmental Biological Sciences and you remain waitlisted for School of Arts and Sciences, if you know you're going to go to Rutgers anyway because you're thinking, hey, you know what, I can just do a school-to-school transfer when I'm there, which is not a terribly difficult process in many cases, you could go ahead and accept that offer to SEBS, the School of Environmental and Biological Sciences, stay on the wait list for the School of Arts and Science. And if you are later admitted to arts and sciences, you can switch your enrollment over from one to the other. So that is absolutely possible at Rutgers. You will see that those numbers vary greatly from year to year at Rutgers. They're not terribly consistent. I would say this year is probably going to be fairly similar to last year, but we'll see. Things can always change. So what happens? As we move into the month of April, through the month of April, and then into May, schools are going to assess whether or not they need more students. I really try to think of this as much more of a waiting pool than it is a list because it's not an ordered list in any way. They can't tell you, you're fifth on the wait list in general for wait lists that are out there. What's going to happen is that they're going to assess as time goes by, does it look like we're going to make our class? Are we lagging in any particular area, perhaps within a specific school or major, or we're lagging in in-state or out-of-state students, financial, do we need students? Can we admit students who have financial need, don't have financial need? They're going to kind of determine these factors. And if and when and if they go to the wait list, they're going to go to the wait list only for students who meet those criteria. So keep in mind that they're not going to re-review the entire wait list anytime they determine that they need seats. They're going to review only a subset depending on what they need to make their class. So there is no guarantee that you're still got a kind of a possibility later on. So that's important for you to really think about. It's also important to recognize that this is completely outside of your control. This doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you or your application. It is simply a numbers game for the institution. So when are these things likely to happen? It depends upon the school. Some schools will start to go to their wait list in the month of April. But in most cases, those decisions are not going to come until after May 1st. What I recommend that families do is, if you know that a school has a history of going to their list in April, you may want to pick a date in April by which you say, if I haven't heard by this point, I'm going to go ahead and make that deposit at another institution. You can still keep your name on the wait list for that school after you have deposited somewhere else. And that is what you should be doing if you think that you would still go there. So you really need to take some time to weigh for each of these schools, do I actually want to be on the wait list? Or have I already made a decision and I want to take control of this process, go to the school that really loves me? I've got a place that I can financially afford, that I'm comfortable with. Maybe some of these places on the wait list, you're like, you know what, at the end of the day, they're going to cost too much. I'm not going to go in anyway. Then go ahead and tell them, you know what, no, no thanks. I'm not going to take that spot on the wait list, because you've got other plans. There's no obligation that you take that spot on the wait list for every school you've been waitlisted to. So what should you be doing? First of all, review the letter, see what they say. Accept your spot if that's what you want to do. Check out that waitlist document that I sent and take that and go back to that letter and look at it and see what it says you should be doing beyond just accepting your spot. Is there an opportunity to fill out something else in the portal? Do they accept letters of continued interest? Do they suggest more grades from maybe third marking period? Or have they specifically said, we don't want anything else? Because when they say we don't want anything else, or nothing you send us will affect our decision, they mean do not send us anything. It is very important that you follow directions here. If you are putting together a letter of continued interest for a school that will accept it, remember, this is really a love letter to the school. You're going to include kind of a thanks for putting me on the list. Stick to significant updates and tie those where you can to the school. What you're really looking for is you're trying to make them see you at this institution. And that is your focus here. This is a place where if the school is truly your first choice, you should say it very clearly. If accepted, I will come. You are my first choice institution. This is a place where finances can come into play, especially for schools that are private schools that award, institutional aid, and they may be looking for full pay students. If you know you are a full pay student, I would advise you to find a tactful way to say that. That doesn't mean saying, hey, I'm a full pay student, I'll give you all my money. But you can say things like, if accepted, there is nothing standing in my way of depositing immediately. That's kind of a bit of a code word for like, hey, I'm not waiting for your aid package, I'm going to come. So think about those things and think about what are accurate things for you to say in this letter of continued interest. Then once you have done that, you've taken those steps that the school said you can do, you really need to physically and emotionally move on. You need to visit other schools that you have been accepted to and plan to deposit elsewhere by May 1st. There's no guarantee you will ever get in off this waiting list. The odds are that you will be going to one of the places you have already been accepted to. So you need to plan for that. And know that those schools would really love to have you there, and invest in one of those schools and making that deposit at one of those schools. As I said, it is perfectly okay to stay on the wait list for other schools beyond May 1st. You may hear from a school, especially the selective schools. They're not going to go to that list until after May 1st. They'll do that through May and also into early June, and sometimes later on until July and August. But you do need to get that first deposit down because we want to make sure that you have a place to be next year for sure. If you have questions, definitely reach out to me. This is a big part of what I do. for the rest of the school year. And I'm happy to give you some specific advice if you need it.